expansive sense of a study, or a more expansive sense of the study, the expansive sense of the project. This becomes directly proportional to the distant from the text. So when he's invoking this term distant reading, it's actually a reading which is distant, literally distant from the direct textual reading. So and hence you begin to become more expansive. Your data, your text becomes more expansive. Then you become more distant from the actual or direct textual reading. Which he sort of calls, which for him is similar, or for him is the close reading. And then he moves on to talk about, he begins to focus and invoke the context of the United States, and then he states that the United States is the country of close reading. So I don't expect this idea to be particularly popular. So he's also referring to the criticism of the distant reading that he has juxtaposed and posited against close reading. Please note that in his initial theorization, what is lacking in close reading, what is left out, what is missing, what close reading is unable to do is what his idea of the distant reading will do. And so the problem that he finds with close reading is that it depends on extremely small canon. And so you invest so much in individual texts only if you think that there were very few of them really matters. So and so if you want to look beyond the canon, close reading will not do it. It is not designed to do it. It is designed to do the opposite. And hence he brings in, he says that we need to do a little pact with the devil. And so we know how to read text. When he's talking about we know how to read text, he's referring to close reading. Now let's learn how not to read text. Distant reading, where distant, let me repeat it, is a condition of knowledge. It allows you to focus on units that are much smaller or much larger than the text, devices, themes, tropes, or genres and systems. And if between the very small and the very large, the text itself disappears, well, it is one of those cases when one can justifiably say less is more. So when we are talking about less in the sense of less of close reading, less of direct engagement with the text, and when you say more, here it's the quantification, the more of the text, the expanse of the corpus of the numbers of text that it will be more. So this is and he says that if you want to understand the system in its entirety, we must accept losing something. So as you could see clearly, we see Moretti pitting close reading against distant reading as two oppositional category at this stage. And here to understand the entirety of the system, Moretti doesn't mind losing out on the details, the minute of the details. So now that was Moretti's foundational text, which tried to define and coined the term distant reading in 2000. Now we go back in history and try to sort of do a little kind of a survey on the origins and the theories of this term. And so to trace the origins and the theories, I bring in Emmy Earhart, and here she is talking in the context of the emergence of what is known as the digital literary studies. And the observation that she makes is that the current trend in digital literary studies and the larger digital humanities is that there is a moving away from representational concerns and towards interpretive functions. And then she cites some of the contemporary digital scholars. And what do? They use technology to devolve, manipulate, and reform the literary text. And in response to Emmy Earhart, we have Ted Underwood, who is trying to trace a genealogy of distant reading. And he traces this genealogy to book history, sociology, and linguistic, and to a range of 19th century experiments. And he argues that he is also responding to Earhart's argument about this movement from the representative to the interpretative. And he says that the interpretive questions posed by the scholars, which Earhart mentioned in the above passage, are much older than the web. So, and then, hence you could see him concluding that qualitative interpretations of literature is a story that stretches back from book history, sociology, and linguistics to a range of 19th century experiments. And then so his emphasis is that distant reading is not a new trend defined by digital technology or by contemporary obsession with the word data. And then he says that the question posed by these distant readers, they were originally framed by scholars such as, he invokes Raymond Williams and Janice Radway, and who worked on the boundaries between literary history and social sciences. But he also does not deny the fact that computer science has also been a crucial influence. And then he also does not discount Moretti's contribution. And he says that it is true that Franco Moretti coined distant reading around the year 2000. But for him, distant reading was not coined to describe a radically new method. But so this makes him conclude that distant reading has evolved into a name for a more specific approach to literary history. In the sense of Moretti, but the approach described significantly predates this particular name for it. And I will be citing example. But before that, let's also talk about some of these mid-20th century developments that were influential in the evolution of what we now call distant reading. And so the first development that Underwood cites is of the Marxist literary theory, and Raymond Williams being the key theorist that he invokes. And this literary theory insisted that literary culture is never a unified object, but rather a palimpsest of emergent and residual formations transformed retrospectively by processes of selection. And hence, it was after reading Williams and the Marxist literary theory that he represents, it was hard to imagine that there could ever be a single definition of literary exemplarity or a single correct sample of the literary past. And so Williams's long revolution is invoked here, which, according to Underwood, foreshadows contemporary distant reading by grappling with Williams's own method, a longue durée, and by emphasizing on our ignorance about the past. Then the second development is of book history. The second, a full account of the emergence of distant reading might also spend a chapter on book history. And and then book historians have also pushed literary history to define its object of study more concretely, separating processes of production, for instance, from circulation and reading practices. But these part of the story are well known. And hence you could see that Underwood invokes Radway's reading the romance as a key text which fuse the theoretical premises of book history and Marxist literary theory with the experimental method of the social sciences. And I would be demonstrating this with an example. But before that, let me also speak a bit about the third mid 20th century development, which is in the field of linguistics. And Underwood argues that contemporary distant reading has also been shaped by different intellectual traditions devoted to quantitative analysis of linguistic detail. And so hence, although we see that when he for him Radway's example is a key text that had a very strong connection with Moretti's own work, and which I will be discussing subsequently. And in Radway's work, the social categories, their importance were emphasized by Underwood, although he does not discount the fact that the linguistic categories were equally important. But when he's tracing the mid 20th century development, for him, the social categories that Radway explored for the emergence of distant reading, they were more more significant for Underwood. And then now, I would compare, the methods of Janice Radway's reading the romance with Moretti's Moretti's distant reading, which he tried to explain in another of his essay, The Slaughterhouse of Literature. So in reading the romance, Janice Radway, she used questionnaires and interviews, which echoes the method of sociology, to read a sample of 20 romance novels. And she found that, a set of binary oppositions organizing the heroine, the female foil, the hero, and the male into a symmetrical structure. And this structure had resemblances of the anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss's diagram from his work, The Savage Mind, and the technique of sampling and coding of each novel also echoed the techniques of some of the techniques of sociology, such as the content analysis. And similar to her, Moretti's also in the Slaughterhouse of Literature does a study of a sample of about 20 stories. And he developed a coding scheme to describe the roles of clues in detective fiction. And so he takes notes on the presence or absence of each aspects of clues in order to sort the stories into a tree. And after observing these two instances, we find Underwood trying to compare the methods, and he finds that Moretti's method is very close to Radson's approach to romance, although he refrains from suggesting that Moretti was influenced by Radway's method, reading the romance. Rather, he wanted us to pay attention to the fact that both the methods drew from structural anthropology and sociology. And as you could see, yeah, this is tabulated, quantified kind of visual representation in tabular and figurative in the form of a figure. So as you could see, we have we have table 2.2, which is a questionnaire which asks the question: what are the 3 most important ingredients in a romance? And you could see A to F list, happy ending being the first response, and having the first most important feature, having 22 response out of the total of 32. And then on the other side, we have Morete's figure 1, which talks about the presence of clues and the genesis of detective fiction. And you could see, yeah, it begins by, the plus and minus of the presence of the clue in a tree kind of a form. And then the presence is further divided into necessary, again, plus and minus. And then that's a further outgrowing of the plus of the necessary into the visible and the invisible. So that was, as you could see, the 2 methods that we compared still will fall into the category of pencil and paper method. And what distinguishes the method of digital humanities is the introduction of computational methods. So Underwood then introduce us to the history of this fusion, the fusion sociological approach to literature with computational tradition. And he cites the example of, you could see in highlights, a couple of work, Mark Olson and the ARTFL project. Then we have Matthew Jockers and the Stanford Literary Lab, and John Unsworth and the Monk project. And these projects were large-scale literary history projects, which also drew from corpus linguistics, informational retrieval, and machine learning. And now let me move to speak a little bit about one of these projects to give a glimpse of digital distant reading in the digital domain. So I'll begin by speaking very briefly about the history of the ARTFL. So it was a French government initiated project to create a dictionary of the French language, and it started in 1957. But by in 20 years, probably in 1970s, it was able to build a corpus totaling of about 150 million words, and from novels, ranging from novels, poetry to biology and mathematics, and stretching from 17th to the 20th century. And then there was also a realization that these corpus were not only resources for the lexicographers, but could also be useful for the humanists and the social scientists. And hence, in 1981, there is the establishment of the American and French Research on the Treasury of the French Language, ARTFL. And these are the few of the objectives that this project has in mind. And then a little bit about so one of the tools of this project is the Philologic, and I'll just try to give you a glimpse of how it looks like. So okay, so yeah, this is the tool. It is a primary full text search, retrieval, and analysis tool. And it is in the 4th version. And this is a tool of so it's called the ARTL's Corpus Query Engine. And as you could see, so this is the landing page. There is browsing by author, by title, contents, navigation by chapter. So these are some of the options that are available there. Table of contents from chapter, from any location in the text, then query database from any location with autocomplete, search filters. Then you have occurrence of a word within search parameters. Switch to a line-by-line view. Then you have faceted browsing to get frequency reports. Then dig in deeper by selecting a facet. Then you have even deeper digging to specific word occurrences, exploration of collocations of any given word, co-concurrence of two words, exploration of word across time. Then you have investigate usage within a particular time frame of words. And then, you also have the web version. And so this is, a glimpse of Philology Logic, which is a distant reading tool developed by the ARTFL. And now that was a very brief on the history. And now criticism to the history of the theories and the origins of so the first criticism that I discuss is from Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak. And the problem that she finds is that for her, Moretti's essay is about training for new global encyclopedias, although it claims to describe the entire burden of a global comparative literature. And the problem that she finds with this training is that it is both assuming the subjectship humanism and controlling undesirability. And then she moves on to say that should our only ambition be to create authoritative writing patterns depending on untested statements by small group of people treated as native informant. And then she also found it problematic, the term that she used is disingenuous, to say that Goethe, Marx, and Weber as justification for choosing world system theory to establish a law of evolution in theater. And she had a problem of looking them as the models. And then another question that she raised was that is novel, Moretti's work on distant reading focuses on the novel. The genre of novel is a very important text that is being used in his theorization, and hence now the other criticism that Spivak posits is that is novel form identical with literature? Is literature only or synonymous with the novel form? And she also has a problem that imperialism, this novel form has a connection with imperialism, and hence. So when you're focusing on the novel, she sees this as a denial of I think the real problem with this identification between writing good reference tools for novel form on the one hand and for the entire discipline on the other is a denial of collectivity. And then she asked, how can close reading be the hallmark of United States when the new Moretti style comparatives must rely on close reading from the periphery? So her problem is that there is a certain kind of centricism being put on the United States, and where she sees that the US nationalism masquerades as globalism. Although while literature is trying to move away from, transcend the national borders of nationalist literature, by claiming to be transnational, the problematic that she found was that it was still the US nationalism masquerading as globalism. and hence another problem that she finds is that there is an equation of economic system with cultural system. And then she moves on to say that more, she sees that that there is not much difference between, so she says most close reading comparatives do not only read a few texts. They spread out and rely on good reference instruments such as Moretti will provide. They consult secondary texts based on other people's close reading, as Moretti will. So, the close readings, there's not much of, according to her, they are still, maybe the methods are different, but they do practices, their practices do not seem to be much of a difference. Where they can do close read, they can see the criticism provided by the encyclopedists. So for her, the distant reader is the encyclopedist as necessarily superficial and unsatisfactory. The real problem is the claim to scopic vision. So for her, having a universal or a scopic vision is problematic. So that was Spivak's criticism. Then we move on to criticism by Stephen Marche. And according to Stephen Marche, the problem is that data is replacing the books. So he claims that literature is not data, and this is literally a tirade against the digital humanities. And so he compares the robots scoring for the vast accumulation of cipher with cockroaches scoring for nutrition in the caves. And for her, then for Marche, the problem is that he gives the example of this text, automate this, a small book with a stupid title, which offers a fascinating general look at the new algorithmic culture. 60% of the trade on the stock market today take place with virtually no human oversight. Artificial intelligence has already changed healthcare and pop music, baseball, electoral politics, and several aspects of the law. And now, as an afterthought, the algorithm has arrived at literature, like an army which have conquered. So, imagery of conquest is being invoked to show how the data is taking over, the books. And then for Marche, then Marche talks about, amongst many, one of the first story of how literature became data. And then he cites an incident in the year 2002 when Larry Page, along with Mayer, developed a machine for turning books into data. And here it's a reference to the digitization of books. Hence, there are subsequent development of tools like infrared cameras, optical character recognition softwares by these various different companies. You have Google, Hewitt Packard, and then you have development of programs such as reCAPTCHA. And this is for Stephen Marche how literature became data. And that is the problematic of that. He has strong reservations against this conversion. And now I will briefly introduce some of the tools that are being used for distant reading. Most of you might be aware of Voyant, and then Ngram, Nconc, and the last one is ClickX WizHub. So I will take you to this. So this is how Voyant looks like, and this is the tutorial. As you could see, Voyant is a web-based text reading and analysis tool. And this is how a Voyant tool would appear. So the steps in operating a voyant, you sort of select a corpus. And yeah, so if you so there are preloaded existing corpus in the voyant on Austen's and Shakespeare's work. And yeah, so here I have chosen Shakespeare's corpus here. And then there are once you load this, you will find 5 tools for as you could see, you will find the voyant tools have 5 more tools for doing the distant reading. The first tool is Cirrus. It will provide a word cloud. Then the reader is a tool which provide a way of reading documents in the corpus, and the text is fetch as needed. Then you have the trends, which sort of provides distribution of the words occurrence across a corpus or a document. As you could see, yeah, see Mr., Mrs., said, miss, and think, how they are occurring across a corpus. So as you could see, yeah, in this case, it's Jane Austen's work here, and you could see how each of these words, their occurrence are sort of mapped. And then apart from trends, you have summary, which provides a simple textual overview of the current corpus. So here, if you go, so this trend, so this corpus has 37 documents with this many total words and this many word formations. And this was created 3 years ago. So you have the document length, longest, shortest. This is Shakespeare's work that I have sort of invoked here. And finally, the context, where you could see you have sort of arranged individual terms in terms of the context within which they are appearing. So this is voyant for you, as you could see. Yeah. And then the other text is Ngram. Ngram is a Google Books Ngram viewer. So here you trace the occurrence of a word across time. And here we are seeing a comparative of these 3 words: Albert Einstein, Sherlock Holmes, and Frankenstein. And yeah, they their occurrences across a timeline is being mapped in this particular tool, through this particular tool. Then we have NConc. And NConc is again for concordance and textual analysis. So here, it's similar to the I think similar to the context of the context. Sorry, it's similar to sorry. This NConc is similar to the function of context, where you could see, you arrange the word in terms of the right and the left context within which it's appearing. Then the last tool is VizHub. And VizHub it has a dual function of both data visualization and distant reading. And now, yeah, I will move on to the last part of my lecture, which is on distant reading and the challenges. So according to Primorac et al., they realized that, while the digital turn has made it possible to quite literally think big in terms of the size and number of the corpora that could now be considered for literary analysis, several other challenges remain. So the first challenge for them is the challenge of what is known as the digital divide, unequal access to digitization across the world. Underlying the point that the digital turn is not the same as digitization. And hence, their argument is that while in some countries the national literary archives have been extensively digitized, in others the process has barely begun. And the second challenge that they found is the problem of language. So, it's the result of so when applying distant reading as a computer-assisted method to test distant readings, theoretical assumptions about world literature as a single yet unequal literary system, one encounters the practical problem of language. So, there is, it is not just that the current tools for textual analysis still do not allow for the kind of multitextual. So there is this insistence on multilingual textual analysis, the need for that, and which is wanting in the present. So the conclusion that they make is that if distant reading, macroanalysis, and data-rich literary history in general were to truly live up to their promise of opening up the world literary archive to new modes of computer-assisted literary analysis, comparative or not, then both the digitization and the digital tools also need to become available beyond the mostly Anglophone core. Otherwise, this reading approach to the study of world literature will remain forever locked into the unequal, if single system of power relations between the culturally powerful core and the globally dispersed periphery. So yeah, with this, I conclude my presentation. And now I'm open to questions, comments, clarifications.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful session. We really got to know a lot about distant reading practices. So, the participants here, if you have any questions or doubts, could you please mention that in the chat box? If there is any question, please mention it in the chat box.
No questions, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. So there's no question from the participants for time being. Yeah. So I would invite my colleague, Ms. Deboshmita Sharkar, to conclude the session with today's vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Podini ma'am. A very good evening to everyone. On behalf of the Department of English, SRM University Sikkim, it is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks of today's session of our 2-week online faculty development program on artificial intelligence and the literary lens. At the outset, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Natasha Thurdaman, Assistant Professor, School of Liberal Arts, IIT Jodhpur, for her lecture on distant reading. Your talk, ma'am, not only demonstrated the methodological strength of distant reading as a digital approach, but also encouraged us to reimagine the scale and scope of literary study in today's data-driven world. The clarity with which you connected theory, method, and practice has given us valuable insights to carry forward into our own research and teaching. We remain grateful to our head of the department, Dr. Tanushri Sarkar, for her steady encouragement, and our convener, Professor Archana Arul, for her dedication in planning and coordinating this FDP. A warm thanks also to our participants whose enthusiasm and engagement bring vibrancy and value to each day of this program. I wish to acknowledge the sincere effort of our organizing committee and technical support team for ensuring that today's session ran smoothly. So with this, we bring today's session to a close. But for more thought-provoking discussion,
I'm so busy.
and thank you, one and all.
There is a 56 participants.
Hello, ma'am. There is one question posted in the chat box.
Yes, I have seen it. Yeah. So yeah, my answer to your question is yes. There will be thematic theoretical research in future. As you could see, DH, I didn't, because not much work has been done, but now we could also see DH and distant reading and expanding it to many marginalized areas, many underrepresented regions of the country. And hence I do see, there is also an emergence of critical digital humanities, because digital humanities when it began as a discipline, it was, if you trace the history of digital humanity, you would see that it began as an attempt to, it was merely what is called an assistive discipline. Its tools were used to solve the problems of a humanistic inquiry. So computational tools were used, but then with the emergence of critical DH, we are now questioning the algorithms themselves. We are now questioning the designs of the algorithms. And hence, even in terms of distant reading, I do see that there would be, the question that which were raised towards the end, the idea of the multilingual DH. It's opening it up. The democratic potential of the web could be explored. The idea of inclusive, doing away with divides in terms of literacy and access. So and there are now questions being raised on those lines. And I see all these having connections with the emergence of the discipline, and also distant reading. I hope I have answered your question, Surodhini. Okay.
Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, then I think it is the end of the session. This is to notify all the participants that the feedback form has been shared in your WhatsApp group. And also a reminder that we have another session, the second session with ma'am tomorrow. So we expect your active participation tomorrow as well.
Thank you, everybody. And see you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Mm.